That's adding a lot of swing, isn't it? That's nice. Yeah, you don't really hear that in the mix. When it's in the mix, it just kind of fills a gap, so that if I solo all the drums without it, and I put it in, you'll hear that it just fills a nice space and makes it a little bit imperfect, because the Afrobeat loop's kind of straight, going ding 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 ding, and everything else is going ding 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 ding, so it just adds a little bit of imperfection. Sometimes I like to do that. Add a straight hat under a swung hat, but very quietly, just so you get a bit of flamming, you know, going on. When it's done right and side-chained rhythmically too, you can achieve some nice results. So don't be afraid to have swung and straight going at the same time, man. It's good. When you take something out and it feels empty, you know it's right. But when it's, you know, when you put it in and it doesn't add much, scrap it. Only add positive vibes to the song. Moving down, we've got an A and an A2. A is a chopped little bit of Khalid's vocal, which I've added in there. Yeah, so that's his, can we just talk? Just gives it that 90s garage flavor, you know, little chop vocal. Yeah, you got to have a few little moments like that. Finger snaps, that's me and Howard, I think, actually snapping away. I think it's snaps and me going as well. Yeah, there's a little as well in there. I like to do my own snaps sometimes all the way through the song, again, just to add imperfections, make it sound a bit less loopy. This one's only got, what is that? It only goes around double time. We did do it the whole way through. I must have just thought it was not good enough. Do you reckon it's possible to mix on budget speakers? 100%. You just need to understand them, get to know them, and get to know how your room sounds. Don't focus too much on the speakers themselves. Focus on where you sit in the room, trying to treat the room as well, make it sound a bit like less echoey. You can do it. I won an award for mix on my first album, and I did it with nothing but a cheap pair of tannoys, some speakers that I bought in my dad's auction house, and Logic stock plugins. So I'm not boasting, I'm just saying it can be done. You talk a bit about panning, Guy. I go off of feel. Because I'm a drummer, I do tend to always pan drum kit sounds where they lie at the drum kit if you're playing it. Most people, for instance, would pan the hi-hat to the right. Because if you're looking, imagine if you're looking at a stage, right? The drummer is on the stage facing you. His hi-hat, the hi-hat would be on your right, on his left. So most engineers, I think, would pan the hi-hat right. I always pan it left because that's where it is for me when I'm playing. So I'm used to hi-hat being on the left, you know, high tom being left, mid tom being right, floor tom being right, very right. So yeah, I pan drums from the drummer's point of view rather than the viewer's point of view. But other than that, I go off pure feel. I just think place things where you want them in the stereo field. I use a lot of chorus on stuff to widen stuff out, but that's not really panning. Usually when I pan something, I turn it down anyway because it jumps out of the mix more when it's to the side. One sec, sip of wine. It's the Korg Poly 6. You guys know I love that thing. Also coupled with the Korg Mono Poly, which is a slightly different version of the Poly 6. There's a bit more you can do with it. I really like it because it has chord memory. So you can like play a chord and then you press that button and it will remember that chord on each note. So now I'm only playing one note at a time. That's basically a house music machine, you know. So Monopoly is really good for that. The Monopoly was the first thing I got for making like deep house music with that kind of feel, you know. You can jam that all day. Ah, see, that one's panning like crazy, right? So yeah, I've got the Logic one. So doubled up. One is down the middle, and then this one is skipping from left to right just to give it like a nice bit of, you know, difference. So I'd never usually pan a synth that hard, but when you've got another one down the middle, that's just adding a nice like difference, you know. And those are being side-chained as well by the kick, making sure they're pumping nice. Not side-chaining too hard, actually, because the rhythm's so important of them. I didn't want it to go like... It's like just about taking off the top end when the kick hits. Can't really hear the piano in the mix, but again, it's one of those things I've put in because when I took it away, I felt like it lost something. You know, you'd never listen to this song and be like, oh, the piano's so good, but it's in there. I've humanized all this MIDI, which means that instead of it being perfectly quantized to the beat, every note is just slightly moved out of position. So you see that, like every chord is different, like you'd play it, like, you know, as if a human was playing it. Your fingers aren't going to match perfectly. And so what that does is, you know, when it's underneath the other two synths, it's just slightly different every time. Again, just making it not sound too much like a loop. Just sounds more like some dudes playing along with each other. But, you know, when I take it out, it definitely sounds deader. It'll be nice in headphones too, because you'll just get those slightly wrong notes just sparkling through. Bass. Monarch is taking care of most of the hard work. Here it is. Bit of automation here, literally just volume automation. It doesn't change throughout at all because I've got this on top, the OBXD. This is like the Prince machine. Prince made a lot of tunes on this synth. I don't use it all the time, but if I want something squelchy over a Moog sound that's not a Moog sound, I'll use the OBX. So you can see it's just adding all that nice top. How do I mix the basses together without it clashing? So the main thing is you want to be having each bass in its own frequency spectrum. So as you can see here, here's the Monarch EQ. So Monarch's taking care of all the sub, you know, all this stuff around here. Once something's doing the sub, you rarely need two subs. But if we get to the OBX here, you can see that I've taken the cutoff all the way up to 100. So there's no sub coming from the OBX. If I was to take that off, there's all that sub again. So we don't want that twice. This stuff is fine. You can layer up as much shit as you want, like 100, 200 hertz upwards. You're good to go. And I've actually got a bass guitar on here as well. And again, look, I've cut 100 hertz, and I've also cut all the top off as well. I clearly didn't want the finger noise of the bass. So here it is without the bass guitar, and then I'll add it in. So it's just adding in the octave above the sub, basically, thickening it up. Yeah, I wouldn't usually layer my basses more than 2 or 3. Should probably show you the MIDI as well. There's the bass. That one's a real Howard move, to do a little na na. You know, that's not in the key, that A flat. But when you hear that chord that he threw in the chorus there, it all works. That little no no. There's been a few people actually on the chat or in the Discord that have said like, oh, that chord at the end is wrong. It's not. It's just that sometimes you throw in a chord that's not in the key. Sometimes if you're soloing that part on its own, it can sound like a bit wrong. But trust me, with Howard, it's 99.9% it's right. Yeah, like if I kept looping, you know, just that, it would sound shit. It's a semitone out, but with the right harmony over the top, you can make it work. Swing setting, swing setting. Okay, sorry. Well, it's different every song. If I'm selecting a bunch of MIDI like this, and I want to quantize it, I'll go up here into this corner, and there's a bunch of quantized settings here, and I usually stick to these 16A, 16B, 16C. This song is 16C. 16D and E, you're getting into really swung, like two-step garagey vibes. Swing F I never use. That's almost like too crazy. Swing A is totally straight. But yeah, like I said, look, all these snare drums, all the MIDI is off the grid.